Breathe slowly and deeply, following each breath, becoming one with the breath. Then, let go of everything. Imagine yourself as a pebble, which has been thrown into a river. The pebble sinks through the water effortlessly. Detached from everything, it falls by the shortest distance possible, finally reaching the bottom, the point of perfect rest. You are like a pebble, which has let itself fall into the river, letting go of everything. At the center of your being is your breath. You don't need to know the length of time it takes before reaching the point of complete rest on the bed of fine sand beneath the water. When you feel yourself resting like a pebble which has reached the riverbed, that is the point when you begin to find your own rest. You are no longer pushed or pulled by anything. If you cannot find joy and peace in these very moments of sitting, then the future itself will only flow by as a river flows by. You will not be able to hold it back. You will be incapable of living the future when it has become the present. Joy and peace are the joy and peace possible in this very hour of sitting. If you cannot find it here, you won't find it anywhere. Don't chase after your thoughts as a shadow follows its object. Don't run after your thoughts. Find joy and peace in this very moment. This is a section from Thich Nhat Hanh's book, The Miracle of Mindfulness, which really points to the vitality of presence and the importance of practicing meditation. Here he's kind of demonstrating that if we are unable to find joy in the moments of sitting, of stillness, then we won't be able to find moments of peace in the moments of movement. And if we're unable to find and live in the present, then we won't be able to live and find joy in the future. So, to begin this episode, I have this simple question for you. Are you here now? All right, everybody, welcome to the I Am Here Now podcast. And today we have a special breakdown in which we are breaking down The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. And before mindfulness was a buzzword, before the apps, the influencers, the morning routines, there was Thich Nhat Hanh, a humble Vietnamese monk, poet, and peace activist who quietly became one of the most influential spiritual teachers of our time. Exiled from his homeland for speaking out against the Vietnam War, Thich Nhat Hanh dedicated his life to teaching one simple radical truth. Peace is possible in every moment, but only if we're present for it. His book, The Miracle of Mindfulness, isn't just a guide to meditation. It's a gentle invitation to come home to ourselves, to wash the dishes with full attention, to breathe in and know we are alive, to return to the present moment. Not as a technique, but as a way of being. In today's episode, I want to share the essence of his message, the stories, the practices, the reminders that have helped me slow down, reconnect, and remember what truly matters. Not someday, but right now. And what I took away from this book is the book is really broken down into kind of like two different parts. In order to tell the story of these two different parts in this book, I'm going to create two different episodes. So this one is going to be kind of part one. And what part one I took away is the vitality of mindfulness. And then the next part, the second part, will be about the practice and the discipline of mindfulness. So let's dive in and talk about the vitality of mindfulness. And we're going to start here with talking about washing the dishes. So this is the opening chapter where Thich begins with a simple but powerful lesson about the small tasks we do in our everyday lives, like washing the dishes. And so he kind of starts by saying when he first became a monk, he had the task of washing the dishes. And sometimes he had to do this for over 100 monks. And at that time, he talks about how they didn't really have like soap. They didn't have all the tools that we have now. They really just had rice husks and coconut husks to clean high stacks of bowls, like I said, for 100 different people. And they would have to do this in the winter in the freezing cold. And he kind of starts about talking about what it's like now. Nowadays, one stands in a kitchen equipped with liquid soap, special scrub pads, and even running hot water, which makes it all more agreeable. Anyone can wash them in a hurry, then sit down and enjoy a cup of tea afterwards. And so right here, he's pointing to just how quick and easy it is for us right now to just simply wash the dishes. And he continues, while washing the dishes, one should only be washing the dishes, which means that while washing the dishes, one should be completely aware of the fact that one is washing the dishes. At first glance, that might seem a little silly. Why put so much stress on a simple thing? But that's precisely the point. The fact that I am standing there and washing these bowls is a wondrous reality. I'm being completely myself, following my breath, conscious of my presence, and conscious of my thoughts and actions. And so here, Tick is kind of just pointing to how important it is really to just be present within these small tasks. And like he says, it kind of is silly to put so much emphasis on being there when you wash the dishes. But kind of like he points to again, this is the point. The point is to just be where you are, no matter what you are doing. And he kind of like points to this later on in the book as well. But if you're unable to practice mindfulness and meditation within these little moments, who is to say that you're going to be able to practice mindfulness and presence in any moment? So he kind of continues from this point and he continues into the section about the cup in your hands. And once again, he's talking about washing the dishes. So he says, there are two ways to wash the dishes. The first is to wash the dishes in order to have clean dishes. And the second is to wash the dishes in order to wash the dishes. If while washing dishes, we think only of the cup of tea that awaits us, thus hurrying to get the dishes out of the way as if they were a nuisance, then we are not washing the dishes to wash the dishes. What's more, we are not alive during the time we are washing the dishes. And I'm going to just kind of take a break here because that is a heavy, heavy statement there. And I'm going to repeat it one more time. He says, what's more, we are not alive during the time we are washing the dishes. We are not alive during the time we are washing the dishes. So he is pointing to here that when we are thinking about the future, when we aren't present where we aren't alive. And I think this is really a great thing for you and me to really contemplate. Are we alive when we are thinking about what's next? Are we really living when we're thinking about what's next? Are we stuck in an imagination that we are creating in our mind? He continues, in fact, we are completely incapable of realizing the miracle of life while standing at the sink if we can't wash the dishes. The chances are we won't be able to drink our tea either. While drinking the cup of tea, we will only be thinking of other things, barely aware of the cup in our hands. Thus, we are sucked away into the future, and we are incapable of actually living 1 minute of life. And Tick here is kind of pointing to this vicious cycle that I think is almost like a human condition of always thinking about what's next. And it's almost like a condition of we aren't happy with where we are. And in a way, we could almost never be happy with where we are. Even if we were at the place that we wish we were, if you have that same conditioning, you're always going to be looking forward ahead for what's more. Like, what can you get more of? Thus, you're never really able to be truly where you are. And he's really pointing to the vitality of mindfulness because if we are unable to be present where we are and we aren't present in washing the dishes when we are washing the dishes, then we aren't living. We aren't experiencing life. And that alone just really points to the vitality here with mindfulness and being present where you are. I don't know if you guys can kind of relate to this, but when I read this section, I kind of looked back at my own life and I reflected on just how often I am constantly thinking about the future. And I kind of was alarmed because I realized in that time when I'm thinking about the future, first of all, a lot of times the future that I'm imagining doesn't come to be. It could be close to that version, but it's never the case that that is the exact future that comes to be. In the process, I'm not where I am. I'm like losing those moments, which, of course, yeah, it might be mundane moments, but then because it's a habit, when it's special moments, part of me is still thinking about what's next. And so I think right here, Tick is really pointing to a very key aspect of the vitality of mindfulness in the sense of if we're unable to do it for the small things, we won't be able to do it for the larger things that come in life, the big moments. And I think Tick would say that there is no big moments. All of it is big moments. That's the first one, washing the dishes. I think that was such a, it was like a simple but a heavy thing that we all can learn from. So kind of continuing on now, Tick then talks about the pebble, and we went over this in the intro, but it's so impactful. I'm gonna read it again, and I know it's a long section, but just stick with me, y'all. And I really want you guys to listen to the words and take them in because they're very heavy and impactful. So he starts, breathe slowly and deeply, following each breath, becoming one with the breath. Then let go of everything. Imagine yourself as a pebble, which has been thrown into a river. The pebble sinks through the water effortlessly. Detached from everything, it falls by the shortest distance possible, finally reaching the bottom, the point of perfect rest. You are like a pebble, which has let itself fall into the river, letting go of everything. At the center of your being is your breath. You don't need to know the length of time it takes before reaching the point of complete rest on the bed of fine sand beneath the water. When you feel yourself resting like a pebble which has reached the riverbed, that is the point when you begin to find your own rest. You are no longer pushed or pulled by anything. If you cannot find joy and peace in these very moments of sitting, then the future itself will only flow by as a river flows by. You will not be able to hold it back. You will be incapable of living the future when it has become the present. Joy and peace are the joy and peace possible in this very hour of sitting. If you cannot find it here, you won't find it anywhere. Don't chase after your thoughts, as a shadow follows its object. Don't run after your thoughts. Find joy and peace in this very moment. How are you reacting to the river of life? For me, I feel like a lot of times I'm chasing up the stream of the river of life. I'm trying to make things happen. And I think even like American culture, this is a big part of it. It's that quest of making the American dream happen. It's kind of something that is ingrained in you, I feel like in this country, and I'm sure in a lot of other places as well. But oftentimes I feel like I'm chasing up the stream and I don't really feel like I'm the pebble too often, where I'm able to just sit and be still amidst the river of life. If you can't find the joy and the peace possible right here, you won't find it. And he shows that if you continue to just chase after your thoughts, if you continue to chase after the future, you won't be able to find peace in any moment. I think oftentimes, as he kind of like is saying here, we can get pushed and pulled by life. We allow life to push and pull us. But through meditation and mindfulness, rather than getting pushed and pulled by life, we can just sit within the current. Of course, life is still going to hit you. It's not going to take away the fact that the currents of life are coming. But if we're able to be still and find our center, then we can really just be where we are, sitting amidst the river of life. He continues here, and this section is called The Mindfulness of the Mind. And this section starts with Thich saying, someone might well ask, is relaxation then the only goal of meditation? While relaxation is the necessary point of departure, once one has realized relaxation, it is possible to realize a tranquil heart and clear mind. Of course, to take hold of our minds and calm our thoughts, we must also practice mindfulness of our feelings and perceptions. You must know how to observe and recognize the presence of every feeling and thought which arises in you. If the practitioner knows his own mind clearly, he will obtain results with little effort. If you want to know your own mind, there is only one way: to observe and recognize everything about it. This must be done at all times during your day to day. I'm going to take a pause here because this concept it's simple it's a simple concept of observing your thoughts and feelings as they come. But to actually practice it, it's very hard. It's something I've been kind of trying to work with, but to not engage with your thoughts and emotions, it goes kind of against what at least feels natural to me. But Tick continues and he kind of explains how this can be done. During meditation, various feelings and thoughts may arise. If you don't practice mindfulness of the breath, these thoughts will soon lure you away from mindfulness. But the breath isn't simply a means by which to chase away such thoughts and feelings. Breath remains the vehicle to unite body and mind and to open the gate to wisdom. When a feeling or thought arises, your intention should not be to chase it away. Even if by continuing to concentrate on the breath, the feeling or thought passes naturally from the mind. The intention isn't to chase it away, hate it, worry about it, or be frightened by it. So, what exactly should you be doing concerning such thoughts and feelings? Simply acknowledge their presence. And so, right here, he's saying that this is the way to kind of do it. It's not that simple, like I kind of was pointing to actually practice it, but he's giving you kind of the guidance of what to do. Through focusing on your breath, thoughts and emotions will naturally rise. And rather than trying to chase them away, which, when I first started my meditation practice, and I'm sure for a lot of you guys who have tried meditation, maybe you guys still do meditation, it can feel like this battle sometimes. You know that you're not supposed to be thinking, you're supposed to be just still, clear, letting things flow. But thoughts come as they just naturally do, like as our brains naturally just that's how they work. Our thoughts will come. And oftentimes, I know in the past, I just try to like fight against them. And this does nothing besides kind of make them grow even stronger within my mind's eye. So, what he's pointing to here, and this is kind of the practice, is rather than chasing them away, hating them, being scared about the thoughts or emotions, just acknowledging that they're here, acknowledging their presence. And this was a knock kind of for me when I started to acknowledge the presence of thoughts and emotions, but not engage. And I guess how this might look is you're meditating, or even if you're just living, a thought comes. Maybe it's a hurtful thought, maybe it's a thought that you don't want there. And you just acknowledge, like, the thought of this has arisen, and you let it sit. And as Tick points out, that naturally, when you acknowledge the presence and you accept that the presence is there, they will naturally slip away. There's great power in this. And Tick kind of continues by showing how powerful this really is to our lives. The essential thing is not to let any feeling or thought arise without recognizing it in mindfulness. Like a palace guard who is aware of every face that passes through the front door. Practicing like this is to become mindful of your own feelings and thoughts. You will soon arrive at taking hold of your mind. One can join the method of mindfulness of the breath with the mindfulness of feelings and thoughts. And Tick kind of points to just how vital this is into this next section, which is titled The Guard or the Monkey Shadow. He starts, while practicing mindfulness, don't be dominated by the distinction between good and evil, thus creating a battle with oneself. I'm going to pause here. This is kind of what we were talking about. We start to label things as good and bad, rather than just acknowledging their presence. And this is what could make things even worse. So he continues, whenever a wholesome thought arises, acknowledge it. A wholesome thought has just arisen. And if an unwholesome thought arises, acknowledge it as well. An unwholesome thought has just arisen. Don't dwell on it or try to get rid of it. However much you don't like it, to acknowledge it is enough. And so he now is going to continue on, but he talks about this like a guard when we are acknowledging our thoughts and emotions. We're almost serving as like a guard at an emperor's palace who sees the faces of the people who are walking through the door. And so he kind of like talks about this in this next part. And he starts by saying, when I mentioned the guard at the emperor's gate, perhaps you imagine a front corridor with two doors, one entrance and one exit, with your mind as the guard. Whatever feeling or thoughts enter, you are aware of its entrance. And when it leaves, you are aware of its exit. But this image has a shortcoming. It suggests that those who enter and exit the corridor are different from the guard. In fact, our thoughts and feelings are us. They are a part of ourselves. There's a temptation to look at them, or at least some of them, as an enemy force, which is trying to disturb the concentration and the understanding of our mind. But in fact, when we are angry, we ourselves are angry. When we are happy, we ourselves are happiness. When we have certain thoughts, we are those thoughts. We are both the guard and the visitor at the same time. We are both the mind and the observer of the mind. How crazy is this? I don't know about y'all, but this kind of was like a holy shit moment for me because a lot of times I have kind of thought of it as the guard. You know, you are kind of seeing the thoughts come in, emotions come in, and then you kind of like see them come out. You know, you welcome them out as well. But what he's pointing to here is that's not really the case. We are one with our thoughts. We're both the guard, we're both the observer of them, but we are also the thoughts themselves because when we feel anger, we are angry. What I think this really does is it goes beyond acceptance of the thoughts. We're not just the guard accepting them as they come and go, but when we acknowledge that we are also that, we are that anger, you allow yourself to also be in it, to feel it, to experience it. I'm kind of taking this way from John Kabat-Zinn because he kind of talks about when you feel those things, it's kind of important to be there because that's part of life. And so I think that's kind of what Tick is pointing to here is that when we are experiencing these thoughts, to also kind of be in them, not get attached to them. I don't think that's what he's saying here, but it's like to be in them because we are those thoughts. In that moment, that's what it is. But also acknowledge that they will leave, that they will also step away. They're just a visitor. And so he finishes by saying, mind does not grab onto mind. Mind does not push mind away. Mind can only observe itself. Mind does not grab onto mind. Mind does not push mind away. Mind can only observe itself. And so this is kind of what Tick is pointing to here. In a way, this is a practice of, you know, being the guard, allowing thoughts to come and go. But there's also a great vitality in this because a lot of times these thoughts and emotions can consume us. And when we label thoughts as good and bad, then they can really consume the actions that we take, the way that we interact with the world around us, the way we perceive the world. But being able to just observe and also be in the thoughts and the emotions, we're able to, I think, live in a very much so more present and still manner. This section really is illustrated beautifully the dilemmas that all humans face and how these dilemmas can truly take away from you being the light that you are. And so I'm going to kind of wrap up this first part with this last section, which is, man, this is a really cool section where he tells a story about this emperor. And pretty much this emperor is in pursuit of the answer of three questions. And I believe that these three questions are questions that you are probably have asked yourself and continue to ask yourself. And I mean, it's questions that I have asked myself as well, which is, what is the best time to do each thing? Who are the most important people to work with? What is the most important thing to do at all times? And the story continues that the emperor kind of posts this out. Uh, for if anyone can provide the answer to these three questions, then they will get a huge reward. Because of this, wise men come to the palace and try to answer these questions. All of the answers were about creating more structure to obtain the results he wanted and to maximize his time, and then to apply trust in honorable people. And for the last question, it was to put time into things like religion, science, honorable actions, honorable things. All of these, I think we can agree, are wise answers, but they didn't resonate with the emperor. Because of this, he took off into the mountains to seek the insight of an enlightened hermit. And the story continues as follows. Reaching the holy man's dwelling place, the emperor found the hermit digging a garden in front of his hut. When the hermit saw the stranger, he nodded his head in greeting and continued to dig. The labor was obviously hard on him. He was an old man, and each time he thrust his spade into the ground to turn the earth, he heaved heavily. The emperor approached him and said, I have come to ask your help with three questions. When is the best time to do each thing? Who are the most important people to do it with? What is the most important thing to do at all times? The hermit listened attentively, but only patted the emperor on the shoulder and continued digging. The emperor said, You must be tired. Here, let me give you a hand with that. The hermit thanked him, handed him the spade, and then sat down on the ground to rest. After he had dug 2 rows, the emperor stopped and turned to the hermit and repeated his three questions. The hermit still did not answer, but instead stood up and pointed to the spade and said, Why don't you rest now? I can take over again. But the emperor continued to dig. 1 hour passed, then two. Finally, the sun began to set behind the mountain. The emperor put down the spade and said to the hermit, I came here to ask if you could answer my three questions. But if you can't give me any answer, please let me know so I can get on my way home. The hermit lifted his head and asked the emperor, Do you hear someone running over there? The emperor turned his head. They both saw a man with a long white beard emerge from the woods. He ran wildly, pressing his hands against a bloody wound in his stomach. The man ran toward the emperor before falling unconscious to the ground, where he lay groaning. Opening the man's clothing, the emperor and the hermit saw that the man had received a deep gash. The emperor cleaned the wound thoroughly and then used his own shirt to bandage it. But the blood completely soaked it within minutes. He rinsed his t-shirt out and bandaged the wound a second time, and continued to do so until the flow of blood had stopped. At last, the wounded man regained consciousness and asked for a drink of water. The emperor ran down to the stream and brought back a jug of fresh water. Meanwhile, the sun disappeared and the night air had begun to turn cold. The hermit gave the emperor a hand in carrying the man into the hut, where they laid him down on the hermit's bed. The man closed his eyes and laid quietly. The emperor was worn out from a long day of climbing the mountain and digging the garden. Leaning against the doorway, he fell asleep. When he rose, the sun had already risen over the mountain. For a moment, he forgot where he was and what he had came for. He looked over to the bed and saw the wounded man, also looking around him in confusion. When he saw the emperor, he stared at him intently and then said in a faint whisper, Please forgive me. But what have you done that I should forgive you? The emperor asked. You do not know me, your majesty, but I know you. I was your sworn enemy, and I had vowed to take vengeance on you, for during the last war you killed my brother and seized my property. When I learned that you were coming alone to the mountain to meet the hermit, I resolved to surprise you on your way back and kill you. But after waiting a long time, there was still no sign of you, and so I left my ambush in order to seek you out. But instead of finding you, I came across your attendant, who recognized me, giving me this wound. Luckily, I escaped and ran here. If I hadn't met you, I would surely be dead now. I had intended to kill you, but instead you saved my life. I am ashamed and very grateful beyond words. If I live, I vow to be your servant for the rest of my life, and I will bid my children and grandchildren to do the same. Please grant me your forgiveness. The emperor was overjoyed to see that he was so easily reconciled with a former enemy. He not only forgave the man, but promised to return all the man's property and to send his own physician and servants to wait on the man until he was completely healed. Before returning to the palace, the emperor wanted to repeat his 3 questions one last time. He found the hermit sowing seeds in the earth they had dug the day before. The hermit stood up and looked at the emperor. But your questions have already been answered. How's that? The emperor asked, puzzled. Yesterday, if you had not taken pity on my age and given me a hand with digging these beds, you would have been attacked by the man on your way home. Then you would have deeply regretted not staying with me. Therefore, the most important time was the time you were digging in the beds. The most important person was myself, and the most important pursuit was to help me. Later, when the wounded man ran up here, the most important time was the time you spent dressing his wound. For if you had not cared for him, he would have died, and you would have lost the chance to reconcile with him. Likewise, he was the most important person, and the most important pursuit was taking care of his wound. Remember that there is only one important time, and that is the now. The present moment is the only time over which we have dominion. The most important person is always the person you are with, who is right before you, for who knows if you will have dealings with any other person in the future. The most important pursuit is making the person standing at your side happy, for that alone is the pursuit of life. What Tick is pointing to through the story is that there is only one important time, and that is now. It's the only time that we are promised. I think this is something that we've talked about in pretty much all of our book breakdowns. And I mean, if there's like one pillar of this podcast, I mean, it's literally called the I'm Here Now podcast. But if there is one pillar, it's about the now. It's about this being the most important time that we have. That's what Tick is pointing to through the story. Second, the most important people to do dealings with is the people we are interacting with in the now, because there is no promise that we will have any dealings with anyone else. So this kind of even applies like the importance, the vitality of making sure that whoever we are dealing with, we treat it with our utmost attention and presence, because there is no promise that we will have any other time with any other people. And then finally, the most important pursuit is to make the people at our side happy. Tick kind of talks about this, about the dilemma with this. He says, but often we forget that it is the very people around us that we must live for first of all. If you cannot serve your wife or husband or child or parent, how are you going to serve society? And he wraps it up by saying, are we working for other humans, or are we just working for the name of an organization? Man, this part once again really resonated with me. I feel like I can so easily get caught up in the future, as I said before, and that because of this, I'm not attuned to the people who I'm with right now. And in many ways, this has created problems in my relationships in the past. When you're not present with the people that you are, and you're always constantly looking towards the future, maybe future connections, and you're always trying to work to something that isn't there, what suffers is your relationships here now. And thus, if you're unable to serve the people here, you can't really serve anybody, because you're not even able to serve the people you're present with. Thus, kind of showing that you might not be able to ever serve the people who are in your presence, which I believe is something that is important. You know, this is what makes us feel connected to each other, when we are able to serve and take care of one another. In Hawaii, we talk about malama, like the power of malama, and how this is such a huge part to society. To be able to take care of one another is what honestly is part of why we are here. I believe really is to take care of one another. Like Tick kind of points to make one another happy. So Tick is kind of pointing to this, like, how can we do this? How are we able to serve the people around us? And he begins with this final section. He says, how can we live in the present moment? Live right now with the people around us. helping to lessen their suffering and making their lives happier. How? The answer is this: we must practice mindfulness. Right here, Thich is saying that the answer is we need to practice mindfulness. We need to wash the dishes. We need to be the pebble in the stream of life. Because if we are not here right now with the people around us and working to make their lives more joyful, filled with bliss, serving them, then we will be unable to do it with anyone in any time in any future. So the secret, as Tick is pointing to, is to be here now. And that is the vitality of mindfulness. If you're unable to practice it, if you're unable to live it out in any moment, then as he says, we aren't really living throughout our lives. And so I hope this episode really kind of got across how vital mindfulness is in your life. Without presence, you're risking of letting this gift of life flow past you like the river, never sitting and being where you are like the pebble. Through presence, we get to experience the one thing that is real, this moment. And, I know this sounds serious, and in a way, it is vital, as Tech points to. But I think it's better if we kind of look at it as a fun challenge. Yes, presence is vital, but it isn't something that we should stress ourselves about. It honestly I feel like should be seen more as like a game that we get to participate in every day. It's an opportunity for us to practice something that is vital to our day-to-day lives. And honestly, I think maybe a good way to think about it is to think about your own favorite game or activity that you enjoy to play. Imagine the joy you feel when you play it. And to me, that is what the practice of mindfulness or meditation could be like. It's not something that you're necessarily trying to win in. It's not something that there is no results that you're seeking with meditation and mindfulness. What you're really doing is just being. You're just being present. You're tuning in to where you are. You're grounding with where you are. And through this, you can find this joy and this liveliness of life. And so I hope you find the joy of playing in the practice of mindfulness. And I just thank you for sharing your presence and energy here and now. Until next time, stay grounded, my friend.